The pages of history are etched with the names of remarkable individuals, heroes, inventors, leaders, artists, and saints, whose deeds have left an indelible mark on the course of human civilization. Yet, behind the brilliant facades of monuments, accolades, and school curricula, often lie some rather unpalatable truths. Idols, who command universal admiration and praise, frequently possess darker sides that are conveniently overlooked. This study aims to examine the biographies of 15 great historical figures whose achievements undoubtedly changed the world, but whose legacies also bear deep and indelible blemishes. Among them are brilliant minds consumed by vices, freedom fighters who harbored racist beliefs, and peacemakers whose private lives concealed violence. The question inevitably arises: is it possible to admire their accomplishments without condoning their reprehensible actions? This analysis will conclude with a ranking of the 3 most controversial figures, and an invitation to reflect on a dilemma that remains pertinent to this day. The information presented may fundamentally alter established perceptions of historical heroes. History possesses an astonishing ability to elevate individuals to a godlike status, as if they were untouchable and flawless. In textbooks and films, they are presented as ideal personalities, embodying progress, courage, and genius. However, reality often proves to be quite different. In every person's life, even the most distinguished, light and dark sides intertwine. Great discoveries, political leadership, or artistic talent can coexist with cruel decisions, moral transgressions, and actions that are considered unacceptable in contemporary society. Yet, these unpalatable aspects of their biographies are often silenced or consigned to oblivion, as if acknowledging such contradictions causes a certain discomfort. This article does not seek to debunk legendary figures of the past or diminish their contributions to humanity. Rather, it strives to present a comprehensive view of their biographies, revealing both their triumphant moments and the more questionable aspects of their activities. Understanding the ambiguity of these eminent personalities allows us to more critically assess historical events and draw parallels with the present day. Thomas Edison's name is firmly associated with an era of great discoveries and inventions. His genius gave the world the electric light bulb, the phonograph, and was at the genesis of cinematography. Edison lived and worked during a period of rapid industrial development, when competition reached unprecedented levels, and electricity became a key driver of technological progress. However, behind the dazzling facade of his achievements lay an unpalatable side. During the so-called War of Currents, Edison, striving to overcome Nikola Tesla, resorted to inhumane methods. In an attempt to discredit Tesla's alternating current, he organized public experiments in which he subjected animals to cruel torment, demonstrating the lethality of AC. Dogs, cats, and even elephants became victims. Such tactics not only demonstrated extreme cruelty, but also constituted cynical manipulation of public opinion to protect his own commercial interests. Today, Edison's actions provoke justified condemnation and force us to ponder the question: is it possible to separate the ingenious inventor, who gave the world light, from the man willing to use cruelty to achieve his goals? Edison's story serves as a stark reminder that progress and morality do not always go hand in hand. Mahatma Gandhi, whose name is inextricably linked with the ideals of peace and nonviolent resistance, is an iconic figure in India's struggle for independence and a symbol of peaceful protest. Nevertheless, his biography also contains darker pages. During his time in South Africa, Gandhi made derogatory remarks about Africans, whom he considered second-class people. These statements, documented in his writings, continue to spark fierce debate today. In Ghana, university students demonstrated, demanding the removal of Gandhi's statue, rightly believing it unacceptable to glorify a man who held racist views, even if he later changed his convictions. This fact presents us with a complex question. Can a leader, a freedom fighter, simultaneously be susceptible to prejudice? Gandhi's figure, in all its greatness, serves as a reminder that even icons of justice are not immune to human weaknesses and errors. Abraham Lincoln, who went down in history as the president who abolished slavery in the United States and led the country during the Civil War, became the embodiment of freedom and justice. His Gettysburg Address still resonates as one of humanity's most inspiring calls to action. However, decisions made by Lincoln today evoke mixed assessments. In 1863, he proposed a plan for the colonization of Haiti, which involved relocating hundreds of freed African Americans there. The idea was that, despite being freed from slavery, they should not live on equal terms with other U.S. citizens. This project proved to be a failure. Living conditions in Haiti were unbearable, many settlers perished, and the plan was eventually canceled, leaving a bitter mark on the memory of its participants. This episode testifies that even a leader dedicated to the fight for freedom could be susceptible to the racial prejudices ingrained in society. Lincoln, therefore, is a symbol not only of the triumph of emancipation, but also of the deep-seated prejudices characteristic of the American nation of that era. Vladimir Ilyich Lenin appears in history as the chief architect of the 1917 Russian Revolution and the founder of the world's first state built on socialist principles. Under his energetic leadership, the monarchical regime was overthrown, marking the beginning of a new era in politics that profoundly influenced the entire 20th century. However, the triumph of the revolution was overshadowed by the ominous specter of terror. It was Lenin who initiated the creation of the All-Russian Extraordinary Commission, better known as the Cheka, an organ designed to ruthlessly suppress any manifestations of dissent. In the name of revolutionary ideals, thousands of people were subjected to arrests, brutal torture, and executions. This period, known in history as the Red Terror, laid the foundation for decades of political repression that became a grim reality of the Soviet Union. Lenin attempted to justify these atrocities by the need to defend the revolution, but in this struggle, the fine line between justice and ruthless cruelty became blurred. His personality still provokes fierce debate. Some see him as a visionary leader, others as the creator of a system based on fear and violence. The figure of Lenin serves as a vivid example of how noble aspirations for a utopia can descend into the nightmare of a terrorist regime, where freedom and human lives are sacrificed for an abstract ideology. Winston Churchill went down in history as an outstanding British Prime Minister who displayed unyielding resolve in the fight against Nazi Germany during the Second World War. Thanks to his oratory and strong leadership, he inspired millions, deservedly earning fame as one of the greatest heroes of the 20th century. However, his biography also contains tragic pages. In 1943, a terrible famine broke out in Bengal, a region of India, claiming the lives of 2 to 3 million people. While the population was starving, Churchill's policy focused on maintaining food exports to Britain and for the needs of its army, with virtually no aid provided to the affected. Many historians argue that his imperial views and dismissive attitude towards Indians exacerbated the scale of the tragedy. For Churchill, preserving the empire proved more important than alleviating the suffering of colonial subjects. This glaring contrast vividly demonstrates how the same person can be a hero in one part of the world and simultaneously bear responsibility for a terrible catastrophe in another. Churchill was and remains a hero for the West, but his legacy in India is forever linked with pain and deep contradictions. Theodore Seuss Geisel, better known by his pseudonym Dr. Seuss, is one of the most revered children's authors of the 20th century. His vibrant works and unique characters profoundly influenced the childhoods of many generations and left an indelible mark on popular culture. However, behind this colorful facade lies a tragic story. While his wife, Helen Palmer, suffered from a serious illness, Seuss embarked on an extramarital affair. The emotional distress caused by this situation led Helen to commit suicide in 1967. This sad episode reveals a deep dissonance in the writer's personality. A man dedicated to bringing joy to children faced pain and betrayal in his personal life. Today, numerous fans still admire his work, but cannot help but ask, how do we separate the brilliant author from the man who failed to support a loved one in their hour of need? Dr. Seuss's story serves as a reminder that even the creators of fantastical worlds can harbor dark sides that cannot be ignored. Albert Einstein is, without doubt, one of the greatest scientists in human history. His theory of relativity revolutionized physics and forever changed our understanding of the universe. However, this genius's personal life was far from cloudless. His first wife, the talented physicist Mileva Maric, found herself overshadowed by his scientific career. Discovered private letters reveal a cold and demanding relationship between the couple. Einstein established rigid rules, instructing her not to expect affection, not to approach him without permission, and to be content with an almost detached family interaction. Despite being perceived by the public as a kind and charismatic man, his relationship with Mileva shows that he could disregard human feelings and manipulate them to achieve his scientific goals and recognition. Einstein remains a symbol of genius, but his personal drama reminds us that even the most outstanding minds can make mistakes in the most important aspect, in showing care and respect for others. John Lennon undoubtedly remains one of the most significant figures in 20th century music and a prominent advocate for pacifism. His songs, especially Imagine, made him a global symbol of love, peace, and hope. However, as is often the case, the musician's personal life did not always align with the ideals he proclaimed. In several interviews, Lennon openly admitted to instances of physical violence towards women in his youth. Behind the image of the pacifist lay a complex and contradictory personality, whose behavior today seems utterly unacceptable. A difficult question arises: how do we reconcile the artist who called for world peace with a man who, in his personal life, did not always adhere to principles of harmony and nonviolence? John Lennon's musical legacy continues to inspire generations, but his biography also serves as a reminder that even the most ardent advocates for peace can harbor internal conflicts and make mistakes that cannot simply be ignored. Walt Disney is remembered as a man who fundamentally transformed the entertainment industry, gifting the world unforgettable characters that live in the hearts of children and adults. It was thanks to his genius that iconic figures like Mickey Mouse, Snow White, and many other magical worlds came into being, continuing to exist in films and theme parks. However, behind this magic also lie controversial episodes. During animator strikes in the 1940s, Disney did not hesitate to harass and dismiss employees who demanded better working conditions. His entrepreneurial acumen and drive for success compelled him to fiercely oppose those he considered a threat to the company, even if they were talented artists largely responsible for his recognition. Furthermore, during the so-called witch hunt in the United States, he collaborated with the FBI, providing information about employees suspected of communist sympathies. This collaboration made him an ally of a system that persecuted and censored many citizens. Disney was, without doubt, a creative genius, but simultaneously a strict, at times even ruthless, businessman. His story vividly demonstrates that even in the world of fantasy and fairy tales, power and fear can leave dark marks that cannot be ignored. During Queen Victoria's reign, which spanned over 6 decades and is known as the Victorian era, the British Empire reached the zenith of its power, becoming the dominant force on the global stage. However, behind the splendor of imperial grandeur lay a tragic reality marked by immense human cost. Specifically, India, often called the jewel in the British crown, faced a series of devastating famines. While millions perished from starvation, agricultural resources were systematically diverted to maintain the export flow that fed the empire's needs. The indifference of the British authorities and the lack of effective measures to alleviate suffering left a deep scar of exploitation and neglect. In the eyes of many colonized people, Queen Victoria appeared not as a caring mother, but as the embodiment of a system in which imperial ambitions were prioritized over the value of human life. To this day, her image evokes mixed feelings. For some, she remains a symbol of modernization and progress. For others, an embodiment of dominance and tragedy. Queen Victoria's history serves as a stark reminder that the brilliance of an empire is often built on a foundation of hunger and destitution. Elvis Presley, whose name is inextricably linked with the title King of Rock and Roll, revolutionized popular music and profoundly influenced 1950s youth culture. His unique style, captivating voice, and magnetic charisma made him a global idol whose legacy continues to live in the hearts of fans. However, behind the image of the brilliant artist lay a complex and contradictory personal life. The circumstances surrounding Elvis's meeting with Priscilla Beaulieu, who was just 14 years old at the time while he was 24, raised serious questions. A relationship that began under such unequal conditions would, in modern society, be rightly regarded as an abuse of power and influence. Furthermore, in the final years of his life, Elvis struggled with a harmful dependency on medication, which inevitably affected his health and led to his tragic and premature death at the age of 42. The vibrant image of a talented artist was marred by the burden of his own excesses. Elvis Presley will forever remain a musical icon, but his story also serves as a warning that the dazzling brilliance of fame can conceal deep-seated inequality in relationships and destroy those unable to cope with their own demons. Martin Luther, whose name is inextricably linked with the Protestant Reformation, became a symbol of spiritual freedom and change in the 16th century Christian world. He boldly challenged the authority of the Pope, ushering in a new era of religious practice in Europe. His conviction in the priority of faith over ecclesiastical institutions made him an iconic figure. However, a dark side of his legacy lies in texts full of hostility towards the Jewish community. In his later years, Luther called for the destruction of synagogues, the confiscation of property, and the expulsion of Jews from Germany. These words became a poisonous source of anti-Semitic sentiment that fueled centuries of hatred, culminating in extremist movements. A complex question arises: how could a man who preached spiritual renewal simultaneously sow the seeds of hatred that led to tragic consequences in European history? Luther demonstrates that even reformers striving for freedom can harbor the seeds of intolerance. Henry Ford, who revolutionized the automotive industry through assembly line production, transformed the automobile from a luxury into an accessible mode of transport for millions. His innovations reshaped not only the United States economy, but also daily life worldwide. Sadly, however, Ford also propagated deeply pernicious ideas. Through his newspaper, he published a series of articles under the collective title, The International Jew, in which he promoted conspiracy theories and anti-Semitic views. These articles were compiled into a book that gained widespread distribution and even influenced Adolf Hitler, who cited it as a source of inspiration. The paradox is evident. A man who pioneered modernization and technological progress simultaneously contributed to the spread of prejudices that fueled one of the darkest chapters in 20th century history. Henry Ford's legacy serves as a reminder that industrial genius can also be a disseminator of destructive ideas. Along this journey, we have encountered 15 figures whose names are inscribed in the annals of history thanks to their extraordinary achievements. but whose misdeeds cannot be consigned to oblivion. Inventors, political figures, creators, and reformers exemplified how individuals can reach unprecedented heights while simultaneously making irreparable mistakes. Among this diverse group, 3 individuals stand out, whose contradictions reach a truly monumental scale. Edison, the genius who gave the world electric light, did not shy away from cruel methods in his pursuit of technological superiority. Churchill, a victor in the Second World War, allowed a terrible famine in India, causing untold casualties. And Henry Ford, the creator of the modern automobile, propagated anti-Semitic views that had a pernicious influence on many generations. These stories compel us to reflect on a question that remains pertinent to this day. Are we justified in admiring a person's achievements while turning a blind eye to their transgressions? Or should we evaluate heroes in the full complexity of their contradictory nature, recognizing that history abhors simplifications and black and white portrayals? Perhaps the answer lies not in erecting idols, but in learning lessons from the past, acknowledging the successes that transformed the world, but never forgetting the mistakes that must, under no circumstances, be repeated. Such is the dual nature of history, constantly reminding us that behind every monument stands a living person with their merits and flaws, their light and dark sides.